Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here to talk more about the wide receivers for Week 1, NFL Draftkings. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports, daily fantasy sports slates. Before I get into the analysis here, real quick, I do want to say thank you guys again for all support. Currently at 4.53 thousand subscribers. The easiest way to support me right now, since all the content is free, is just leave a like button on the video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos, so you know when I go live. If you cannot watch the videos, I also upload on Apple Podcasts. The link is in the description below, which is the DK DFS show. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So let's talk about, again, wide receivers. I already have an early look video for Week 1 if you guys are interested in that. I do also have a video up breaking down more in depth of the running backs for Week 1. This video will be focused on the wide receivers. So let's start it, and we're going to go team by team here. So we'll start with Green Bay and the wide receivers for Week 1. Davonte Adams at 7-3. Mentioned him in the early look video. I like him as a contrarian play. I know the matchup isn't amazing against Minnesota, but just the volume with him. Like, the Packers don't really have anyone else. Tight end doesn't look great. Like, he's going to get 10-plus targets, most likely here. So I like Adams as the GPP play. I think he flies a bit under the radar, but the thing that I really like with him is the volume. The volume will be there. So, and he's a guy that the upside is pretty high too. And the 7-3 price is fair. So I do like Davonte Adams. I think he goes lower owned on the site just because people will look at that matchup and avoid him. Looks like Lazard's going to be the number 2 guy. At 4.9, you're not really getting him at a huge discount, so I don't know if he really stands out there. I'm probably not going to take a shot at MVS at 4.1, who would be their number 3 receiver. So for me, it's probably going to be Adams, and that's it. So let's talk about Minnesota. With now Stephon Diggs out of town, Thielen is their clear number 1 guy at 6.7. And I think he looks like a pretty good option. It's a better matchup on this side of the ball for Minnesota. Green Bay's defensively is not great. And, you know, Thielen was dealing with some injuries last year. He only played, I think he missed, I forget how many games he missed, at least 5 or so. But looks like he's full go this year. And again, no Stephon Diggs. So I think the volume goes up a little bit on him. I think he looks like a really good play in the mid-range. The other options, I am interested in whoever wins the number 2 job. It could be the rookie Justin Jefferson. Right now, it is Olabisi Johnson that currently has it, but things could change. So whoever does win the number 2 job for Minnesota, I would have some interest in as a value option on this slate. Let's talk about Miami. So there are a couple of viable plays here. Devontae Parker, I don't mind pairing him with Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's like a cheap stack, right? Fitz is like 5.3 if you pair him with Devontae Parker. You can still get a good amount of good players in your lineup if you start your lineup with that stack. It's a riskier stack for sure, but New England is missing pieces defensively, so they're not the same team as they were last year on the defensive end. Devontae Parker's a guy that, and I mean, look at those last couple games. The upside is there. So I kind of like that as I think it's going to be a lower owned stack. Fits Devontae Parker. I think the upside is pretty high. And if the Dolphins are playing from behind here, like it's good, should be good game script too. So I think he's in play at 6K. More of a GPP play though for me. I don't know if he's a cash play. Preston Williams at 4.5. There's not a whole lot of like standout cheap value for wide receivers. He's a guy that you could look to. He had a really good year and then tore his ACL, but now he's back. If there's going to be no limit, he is their number 2 guy. I think he makes for a pretty good value option. So got to keep an eye on what his status is, if they're going to kind of limit him going into week 1. But if he's full go, no limit, he's their number 2 guy at 4.5. I think he's a viable cheap option. Let's talk about New England. So obviously no Tom Brady. Should be Cam Newton starting quarterback. Element at 6K is a guy that I think it's a little bit more usage this year. Like he kind of slowed down down the stretch, but I don't think New England is going to be playing from ahead as much as they did last year. Again, they lost pieces defensively. They no longer have Tom Brady. So I think it's actually kind of good for Edelman. And Cam Newton's still a solid quarterback. So at a $6K price point, I think Edelman looks like a safe option with a bit of upside. He's a possession receiver, right? He can definitely go for double-digit catches. So I think he looks like a pretty good option there, kind of more in the mid-range. With the secondary option in New England, whether it be Sanu or N'Keal Harry, we'll see. If N'Keal Harry does win the number 2 job, you could look to him. Like I like his upside a little bit more, even though he didn't play as much last year. So got to keep an eye on that and what happens there with the Patriots and their other receivers. On the Chicago side, Allen Robinson's at 6'5". He had an amazing year last year. Like, amazing. The quarterback play was suspect, and he still put up huge numbers. I think I would like him a bit better if Nick Foles actually wins the starting job than Mitch Trubisky. So we'll see. Just because Trubisky really did struggle last year. So if Foles wins it, I feel a little bit more comfortable with him as a quarterback than Trubisky. It would make me like Robinson a bit more. There's a lot of games that have really, really high over-unders, right? The Saints game, Tampa Bay. I feel like a lot of exposure is going to go to that game. So Allen Robinson might fly a bit under the radar here. But, you saw the upside in him last year. So it's a good matchup too against Detroit. Detroit is not good defensively. So I have interest in Allen Robinson. The other options, I don't think I'm going to get to Anthony Miller at 5K. I just don't know if we have to do it on this. He had games, right? We had 11 catches, 13. The upside, he kind of upside games, but I don't know if I'm willing to take the risk on him yet at 5K. On the Detroit side, not the best matchup. We know Chicago's pretty good defensively. Marvin Jones, I'm not going to get to a 5.5. I'm definitely not getting to 4.8 Amendola. Galladay would be the one guy I would consider as a concern option if you want a super low-owned stack with him and Stafford, but doesn't stand out. So just a strictly GPP play there with Galladay. Let's talk about Seattle-Atlanta. So this is a game I think will be pretty popular. And the receivers in this game look good. I feel pretty confident about these guys. Lockett and DK Metcalf, we know where the offense is coming from. It's those two guys when they throw the ball. So I like them both quite a bit in a good matchup here. I think both are safe with upside. This game definitely has shootout potential. So I like Lockett, and I like the emergence of DK Metcalf. Going into his second year, he's a guy who's targeted a bunch in the red zone. I like both these Seattle receivers a good amount. I think they'll look really, really good in the mid-range. I don't think I'd consider whoever wins the number 3 job there for Seattle. So let's talk about Atlanta. Julio's at 7.7, seems about right. The upside is still there. He had big games down the stretch, 20, 15, and 13 targets. Still wasn't utilized a whole lot in the red zone. But, I guess the issue with Julio is he's getting up there in age, 31, no longer a young gun, right? But still the talent is there. And again, a good matchup. This game has shootout potential. So if you can get to Julio Jones, I like his upside. Also like the upside in Calvin Ridley at 6'1". He is their clear number 2 guy. And Atlanta is just a team that they want to throw the ball. So again, I like all the receivers in this game. The 2 Seattle receivers, if you can get to Julio, I like him. I think Ridley looks really good in the mid-range. It's both a cash and GPP play. So I think all the receivers in this game look pretty good. As far as the number 3 guy goes, if Russell Gage wins it, he had a decent year last year. He could be a viable punt, but we'll see who ends up winning it, whether it be him or Treadwell. Let's move on to Philly. So no Alshon Jeffrey. Philly's a team that's going to be very popular in Week 1, in my opinion. Deshaun Jackson's going to be chalk. I think Jalen Reagor is going to be chalk too. The rookie, he's looked really good so far in training camp, getting a lot of praise from the beat writers. I think he is going to be their number 2 guy. And if he wins the number 2 job alongside Deshaun Jackson, I think both look really good. Again, this slate, both look really, really good for value. Washington, not scared of them defensively, so I like Reagor a lot. I think Deshaun Jackson is certainly in play at 4.9 too. The one game that he was basically healthy last year, he went for 8 catches, 154 yards, and a couple touchdowns. The upside is still there in Deshaun Jackson. The issue, again, he is getting up there in age now, 33. So, but again, I like both of these Philly guys. With Deshaun Jackson, with Jalen Reagor, I think both look good for their prices. On the Washington side, quarterback play, we still don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be. McLaurin had a good year last year as a rookie. He had upside. I think he would probably be the one guy I'd consider more of a GPP play. Don't really know if he's a cash game play on this slate, but someone that does have upside. If you're getting a lot of exposure to Philly and want to run a game stack, wouldn't make sense to run it back with a guy like Terry McLaurin. I don't think I get to whoever the number 2 is, whether it be Sims or a trade, like whoever wins that number 2 job. So we'll see, but probably will only be McLaurin for me as a GPP play, and that's it. On the Colts side, we have T.Y. at 5'8". Now, I mean, Philip Rivers is up there in age, but maybe a slight upgrade in quarterback as opposed to Jacoby Brissett. Didn't have a great year last year, but he is more of a guy that is kind of boom or bust. The matchup against Jacksonville is pretty good. The 5'8" price looks decent, so I like T.Y., but I think he's more of a GPP play. Again, there's other guys in the mid-range that I think I feel more confident about. Probably those Seattle guys, probably the Atlanta guys priced around him. So T.Y. is a guy that I think is just more in play for GPPs. If Michael Pittman wins the number 2 wide receiver, he could be in play here at 4-4. So again, we got to see who starts opposite of T.Y. Hilton. On the Jacksonville side, again, Chark at 6'3". He had a good year last year, but I don't really know if he stands out at this price. So probably not going to go there. Westbrook is cheap. He was dealing with some injuries last year. Didn't have as good of a year, but at 4'6", would be a viable cheap option. I think I probably prefer the Philly wide receivers as opposed to a guy like D.D. Westbrook. And I don't think I would consider whoever is the number 3 there for Jacksonville. So let's move on to Cleveland and Baltimore. The price in Odell at 5'9", I think it looks good. I know it's not a good matchup. It should be good game script, though. They should be playing from behind, and it's just a price tag thing with Odell Beckham. Like I just think 5.9K is a bit too cheap. I think he should be 6.5 to 7K wide receiver. Again, had a down year last year, but we know the upside is there. If Baker Mayfield takes a step forward this year, I think Odell is just a little bit underpriced here. So I do like Odell a good amount here at under 6K. I think he makes for a pretty solid cash or GPP option. Landry, as opposed to Odell, is probably, I guess, the safer option just because he's more of the possession receiver, right? He's a guy that can definitely get you double-digit catches. Maybe not as much upside as Odell. I think Odell has that big play upside. So I guess Jarvis might be slightly safer to Odell, but I think Odell definitely has more upside. As far as the number 3 receiver goes, I don't think I want to take a shot on whether it be Higgins or Donovan Peoples-Jones, the Michigan product. So let's talk about Baltimore. Baltimore is interesting because their wide receivers, they just spread it out so much last year. Like no one played huge snaps. I like Marquise Hollywood-Brown, but he's only in play for GPPs. He still did not play on a whole lot of snaps. Like no one did for Baltimore. They just rotated their wide receivers. If the snap counts go up on him, then I think the upside is there. But the risk is Baltimore are pretty big favorites here. And this is a game that could get off to an early lead and then just pound the rock. Again, the snaps weren't great on him last year, so I like the upside, but more of a GPP play. Same thing with Miles Boykin, right? Just not a guy that played huge snaps. But, if he wins a number 2 job, could become viable. But again, my worry is that they kind of do their rotation that they had last year, where they utilize like 4 or 5 wide receivers and no one played huge snaps. Like that is a worry for me with these Baltimore guys. Also, Lamar Jackson's a guy that will utilize his feet a lot, and most of the time won't go for like 300 yards through the air. On the Jets side, I think Jameson Crowder's okay, but I'm probably not going to get to him. And he's a possession receiver. He's viable, but just kind of an uglier matchup here against Buffalo. Buffalo pretty solid defensively. This game in general just seems kind of ugly to me. I don't think I'm going to get to Perriman. The Jets are probably going to be a stay away from me, at least for the wide receivers. Like Le'Veon's a guy that I mentioned as the running back, but don't know if I'm going to get to their wide receivers. On the Buffalo side, they're more boom or bust plays. John Brown, Stephon Diggs now, the new number 1 guy, just because Josh Allen was a little bit inconsistent last year. If he can step it up with his accuracy, then these guys obviously would get a boost. So right now, they're more GPP plays. I don't think I'm going to consider either Diggs or John Brown in cash. Beasley at 4A, I mean, I need him to be cheaper for me to consider him as like a punt play. Let's talk about Las Vegas and Carolina. Tyrell Williams has been dealing with injury. Looks like he's going to play through it, though. What was it? Torn labrum. He said he's going to play through it. This game has sneaky shoot-up potential. I don't think a lot of people get to this game. So Tyrell is viable, but if I was going to play a Raiders wide receiver, I think it would be Darren Waller, their tight end. Like, I like his upside a bit more. Interested to see who wins the number 2 job. Like, could become a viable, cheaper option. Ruggs, they said right now they're going to use him as a slot receiver. So I'm curious to see who they start as opposite Tyrell Williams. Like, could be Aguilar, I guess. I don't think they're going to really want to put Hunter Renfrow out wide. So curious to see who, is it Zay Jones? Like, who starts opposite Tyrell Williams there for Las Vegas. Could become a viable cheap option. So I guess a wait-and-see approach there. On the Carolina side, Deja Moore at 6'6". I kind of like the stack there with Teddy Bridgewater. He had a pretty solid year last year with spotty quarterback play. And now I think he gets a boost playing with Teddy Bridgewater. Carolina's going to want to play fast. They want to push the pace here. So this Carolina offense, I like a good amount going into 2020. You're not really getting him at a huge discount, but I think he goes overlooked. So don't mind that low-owned stack. Robbie Anderson's probably a pass for me. I mean, he will be that guy, the number 2 guy, but he's going to run more of those long routes, whereas Curtis Samuel is going to play more in the slot. I think he could become a pretty good cheap option here, so I like him. I don't know if a lot of people get to him. I think his upside goes up playing in the slot. Like, I think his usage will go up too. Again, probably better quarterback play too. So I kind of like Samuel as a value option. Again, right now, all signs are pointing to him being played more in the slot, which I actually think is a boost for him. Let's move on to the Chargers. So I think they get a slight downgrade in quarterback play. So for that reason, from Philip Rivers to Tyrod Taylor, Keenan Allen's going to go low round. But they don't really have a whole lot on this offense besides Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. The matchup's pretty good, too, against Cincinnati. Cincinnati is not good defensively. So, and I think a lot of people will get to a guy like Austin Eckler. Like, I think he looks really good for week 1. And people are just not going to want to play both a running back and a quarterback from and a wide receiver from the same team. So for those reasons alone, Keenan Allen, in my opinion, is going to go pretty low-owned. But the upside is still there on him. So if you want to get different in GPPs and want to piece this Chargers offense, I don't hate the idea of going to Keenan Allen over a guy like Eckler. Now, Eckler's probably your cash play, and I like him quite a bit for week 1. But don't completely avoid Keenan Allen there. I don't think I'm going to get to the other receivers. Mike Williams, dealing with some injuries. I just don't trust whoever. I guess, if Joe Reed possibly wins the number 2 job, and he is their number 2 guy at 3.9 would become a viable option. So I wouldn't completely rule it out. We'll see if Mike Williams is, in 2 to 4 weeks is out. So we'll see if he's able to go there week 1. There could be value there possibly if a guy like Joe Reed is their number 2 option. On the Cincinnati side, with Joe Burrow now at quarterback, tricky. Like A.J. Green, I like the price. My issue is just he cannot stay healthy. Just been dealing with injuries. It seems like the last 3 years. It's a tricky one. Again, I like the price here, but I think he's just more of a GPP play. The injury risk really does worry me with his history. So I think he's more of a GPP option. Tyler Boyd at 6'1". He's a guy that they probably get a boost here with Joe Burrow at quarterback. I think is a viable play in the mid-range, but probably not a guy I'm going to go out of my way to play. I think I prefer other guys around his price range. And that's it. I don't think I'm going to get to whoever their number 3 guy is. Let's move on to Tampa Bay, New Orleans. So this is another game like Seattle, Atlanta. I think is going to be very popular. Like Godwin, Mike Evans, both look pretty solid. Tampa Bay, again, they want to pass the ball. They want to air it out. Now they get Brady. He probably is more accurate than Jameis Winston. So could be a slight boost, but also they won't be playing from behind as much as they were last year. So I think it kind of evens out, right? So Godwin, Mike Evans, I think both look really, really solid. And this game is the highest over-under of the day, of the week. You're going to want exposure to this. I think both look really, really good. I have no issue with either Godwin or Mike Evans. The one issue I will bring up is there are kind of a lot of mouths to feed. Those two, they have Rob Gronkowski. OJ will probably play a bit still. So that is, I guess, the slight downgrade. But I think both options, at 7-1 for Godwin and 6-9 for Mike Evans, stand out on the slate. And on the New Orleans side, Michael Thomas, if you can get to him, obviously looks good. There's not a lot of downside to him to say, other than the price point, right? If you can fit him in, great. I think he's more of a GPP play, not someone I'm going to go to in cash. Cash games, I always prioritize getting 3 running backs in there, unless there's some really, really cheap, mispriced wide receivers. So I think Michael Thomas is a good GPP play if you can fit him in. Emmanuel Sanders in the mid-range, I like. Even though he's getting up there in age, I just he gets a big boost playing in the Saints offense. So I like Sanders here. I think he goes a bit under the radar, but at 5'7", I think he looks like a good option in the mid-range. Finally, Arizona. So these guys are strictly GPP plays. I think there's only one guy to consider in DeAndre Hopkins. I like the price on him. I like him, Kyler Murray stack as a super low-owned stack in GPP. So no one's going to do it. They're going to completely avoid it because of the defense, which I am worried about San Francisco, who's good defensively. But I just like the price on Hopkins. I like Kyler Murray as a quarterback. He has upside with rushing the ball on the ground. So I like that stack as a super, super low-owned stack in GPPs. I'm not going to get to Kirk at 5K. Fitzgerald at 4.5. Probably not. I guess he's in play, but I don't know if I'm going out of my way to play Larry Fitz. I guess the price point would make him cash game viable. And then finally, San Francisco's. This is a tricky one, so they don't really like to pass too much. Unless they fall behind. We have Samuel out. Jalen Hurd in the IR. Ayuk is questionable, so there could be value here. Bourne is going to get some good reps, but at 5K, probably not going to get to him. If Pettis starts as the number 2 guy, I know he had a terrible year, didn't play a lot, but if he comes out as their number 2 guy at 3.7 against Arizona, I think he could be a cheap option on the slate for sure. So that's really going to wrap it up, guys. Again, there still is a lot of news we're waiting for on who ends up winning starting jobs for some of these teams. There's injuries we're still waiting for, so things can change. But hopefully this video helped you guys for giving you a more in-depth breakdown there on all the wide receivers for Week 1 on DraftKings. So yeah, again, I think that's going to wrap it up today, guys. If you haven't enjoyed the content so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like button on the video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. If you guys are interested in NBA, I did already upload a video for tomorrow's slate, Sunday slate, that is already up. I will have a video up for breaking down the tight ends probably tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks again, guys. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I will see you all later.